I'm Charlotte, and welcome to my podcast, Influence, Inspire, Impact. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Influence, Inspire, Impact. This is episode 4, and I can't believe I actually get to say this, but today I have my coach and one of my favorite humans in the world. She's one of my heroes with me today. This is Camryne, and I'm so happy she's here. I'm so excited for this.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited, Charlotte.
Thank you for doing this. I think most people who know me have at least heard me mention Camryne or have been lucky enough to meet her and see what a ball of sunshine she is and how influential she is in my life. But I'm so excited to have you here, and this will be a good interview. I feel it in my bones.
I'm excited. I'm honored. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for doing this, as I've said like 50 times, but thank you.
Of course.
So I wanted to sort of kick off without a question. I sort of wanted to give, if it's okay with you, our viewers a little bit of a preface of sort of where we started and sort of who you are and who we are together. So I thought we'd start with a little story, and you can always jump in. So last year I actually wrote a paper, and it was about crossing the threshold, and I sat there and I was like, oh my god, I don't even know what to write about for this. And I started writing about the first day of practice at Chelsea Piers. And for those of you who don't know, Camryne and I actually started at Chelsea Piers together. You were a coach and I was a swimmer at the exact same time. Yeah. And it was crazy because we'd gotten an email from Jamie saying that the gray head coach was Jimmy, and I was like, okay, I don't know him, all good. And then I think like a week or so before everything started again, it was like, okay, coach change. I'm like, okay, I don't know her either, whatever.
I don't know these names, that's okay.
Exactly. I was like, I don't know who she is, but okay, I'll just go with it. And I was in a position where I hadn't had much experience with having coaches who like drastically changed the way I looked at everything until you. Because I walked in there and I was like so anxious, and I was with Avery, and I was like, oh god, I don't want to do this because I don't like change, and you know that I don't like new things that much at all.
Things are tough.
Yeah. I just hated it, and so I sat there for that paper and I was like, geez, what do I write about like crossing the threshold? And I was like, you know what, let's just write about the first day at Chelsea Piers. And I wrote the paper and I finished it, and I kind of realized that it was for you. Like I had written it without thinking sort of about you and what you did for me and sort of what that crossing the threshold helped me with, and now I think I've never looked back. So I owe you and my mom big time. I guess my mom for switching us over in the first place, because I'm
absolutely, my goodness. No,
yeah.
It's been a journey, my goodness, in many
crazy. Yeah, it's been, oh geez, I think that's the 4th season.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
It seems like not long at all, but then when you think about it,
I
like
know
4 seasons.
Depending how you think of it, it's like, oh, it was yesterday, but it was also forever ago.
I know, yeah. And I think I've always had a very good memory, but there are certain things that like are implanted in my brain like forever. So walking onto the deck and you came out and I tell this all the time, so you definitely know this, but you looked at us and we were all sitting on the bleachers and I was like so anxious, and you go, hi, welcome to football practice. Does everyone have their footballs? And my brain was so confused. I was like, what is he?
Imagine you're sitting there waiting. You're like, who is this person?
I was like, oh my god. I was like, okay. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, this is probably the coach, but I thought I was here for swimming. Like I'm sitting on a pool deck.
All right, I'm ready for whatever's coming.
Yeah, you were like, do you have your football? I was like, no.
Yeah, when things new and tough and different, I think humor has been my way to deal with those things.
That is definitely, and I think you were so anxious too, but I mean, obviously I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's first day of anything, I feel like, regardless of what you're doing, what point of your life you're at, first day, you never know what to expect or what to do. So I always think lightening the mood in any way you can only help, really. Can't make anything worse.
You're very good at that.
Can't make it feel worse.
I was so incredibly confused. I was like, no, I'm literally supposed to be here for swimming. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I thought you were insane. I was like, who is this?
As you should.
And I remember we walked, you were like, okay, we're starting with like, I think it was 425s free and then like 425s belly kick. And I was like, what the heck is belly kick? And you explained it because like in my past experience, my other team didn't do drilling.
Right.
And I was like, what the heck is belly kick? And now that's like my sworn enemy. I really don't like it at all. But you explained it, and I've always been, I think, very timid in the sense where like I don't like to go first in a lane if I feel like I'm gonna have someone on my tail. But I was behind some girl in front of lane 10, which is still my lucky lane. I haven't gone to swim in it, but that's my lucky lane. I was standing there, and who was it? I think her name was like Shreya or something. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember Shreya. I don't remember her.
Yeah, I think it was her. And I let her go. And I remember I was one of the last ones in the pool because I was in the last heat of swimmers. And I looked at you, and you were like, okay, you can go now. I was like, okay, I'm going. And that was kind of the moment I like dove into the threshold in a sense.
Yes. And that's a great way to think of it. And I think that there's so many different firsts in life, whatever it is. For you, it was that first day of practice where, depending on how you deal with it and what your situation is, that can kind of lead your path for whatever comes next. And now here we are, however many years later, and that first day.
Yep. I mean,
the journey comes from there. So it's always a good thing to see and be able to look back now and see the journey you've taken since then.
I think we talk about that day a lot too. Like that's something I think both of us remember.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think there's those certain firsts that just kind of stick in your brain for whatever reason, and then that's that emotional attachment of like,
that's very emotional. Yeah,
my brain in the sense of it was something new, it was something different, and you adjusted to it.
Exactly. I mean, long story short, by the end of that practice, for anybody watching, by the end of that practice, I was like, oh my goodness, this is like the best coach I've ever had, and I've only spent one practice with her. But I think, so I was with you in gray that first year. Then I was with Jimmy and Maroon, Jimmy and Ruby, and then back to you. Yep. So I kind of looped back to you, but I think you and I have always sort of had a pretty special bond right from the get-go. So I think you're a special person to interview for that reason.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited.
Are you ready for your questions? Oh, I lost it. But, all right. So question one, what was the major factor for you in deciding to become a swim coach? Like, sort of, what's your story? I mean, I already know this, but for the purpose of the viewers.
No, and it's always interesting, kind of same as we were talking about with those firsts, where looking back on it, I feel like big things like that, whatever it is, whether you're young or you're older and with jobs, you sometimes don't realize the path you're taking and when you're in the moment. So you take that little shift and you keep going. But my kind of background, I had swum my whole life. So basically all back when I was your age, younger, swimming up all through college. When I was in college, I was swimming through college and had an injury that cut my swimming career a little bit short. So I ended swimming, my personal experience with competing, a little bit early. Never really felt like I had the closure in a sense of this is something I've dedicated basically my life to. And then very quickly things came to a screeching halt. So I had a kind of emotional time with that, of dealing with a pretty bad injury and kind of moving on from that. And swimming kind of left me with not a bad taste in my mouth, but just there was no closure to it. So I think I kind of got into working with, even before I was coaching, working with kids in instructional way with swimming. And I think that kind of gave me a little bit of that closure in kind of full circle of swimming is a beautiful thing. Swimming is a great thing to learn, to teach, and to kind of get you into that next level of life, of whether it's athletics or whatever it is that you're using it for mentally or physically. So I think that I kind of got into it in a way, and I didn't really think of it in this way when I was starting out. It was just, I loved to work with kids my whole kind of adult life and kind of fell into it. But I think now looking back, it gave me a little bit of that closure that I didn't have with my own swimming career. So I was able to teach a sport that I loved and had done my whole life and kind of get that spirit and to help develop it in some younger people. And that was really cathartic in a way of I had my career and then being able to move on and help some other people find that light with it.
Do you think if you hadn't hurt your back, do you think you would have wound up coaching?
That's a really good question, honestly. And that's something I think about because I don't know. There's no way to know. And I think I kind of fell into it where even when I was in college, I was helping out with the club team where I was at school and kind of fell into it because I had all of a sudden all the time that I had been training was wide open because I couldn't train. So I think that in a way it was that turn in the path and led me into it when maybe I wouldn't have, or who knows, obviously what happens in life one way or the other. But I think that it was one of the things that kind of shifted my perspective in a way and introduced it to me in a way that I never really thought about swimming before. So I think that it was one of those kickstarters to kind of getting me on that path because it let me think about swimming in a way that I feel coaching and swimming are two very different things, where when you're swimming, you're kind of stuck in what you're doing and okay, the feeling of it, the emotion of it, but being able to take that step back and view it as overall the physical component of it as well as the mental and emotional part of it. I think that I was able to get way more of a view once I was personally done swimming. So I think it did give me that little bit of a shift into coaching when I had my injury.
You were I think you told me you almost took a job in Tennessee, right?
I did, yep. So I went to school in Tennessee and I was very, very close to staying there and having a job there right after school and decided to come back. My family lives around this area, so decided to be a little bit closer to home and find something around here and kind of took a shift with that geography base of where I wanted to be and went from there. So I've been kind of all over, but ended up here.
Thank you for not taking that job because I believe in fate, and it's mainly because of you. And I think if you had taken that job in Tennessee, I had wound up with Jimmy. I love Jimmy, like from the bottom. I love him and everything, but I think like that first year with you was like I was ready for Jimmy after that first year with you because I'd had you sort of there, and you're always kind of just there to be like a rock for me in a sense, like with all my stuff going on, and I've always needed you. So thank you for not taking that job.
Glad to hear. And that's where I think with anything, you never know the impact of a decision or what one choice will lead to, and that doesn't mean everything's always perfect or what, you never know, but you take a turn and then things end up how they end up. And it's crazy to think that without making that decision, all the things that happen here wouldn't have happened. So I think that's just life, and I think that's overall with swimming, what it has taught me, and really athletics as a whole, of all of the skills that you're learning in swimming very much applied to everything else that you'll deal with in life. So I think that's one thing that I've been able to recognize more and more now that I'm out of the pool and not in the thick of the swimming, but being able to reflect upon the lessons that you're learning when you're in the sport.
You've left your mark. You've got a couple records.
Oh,
Every single time at the record board, like if I'm on the other side near the record board, I'm like, oh, there's Camryne up there multiple times. You left your mark.
Oh, thanks.
Question 2. How sort of do you strive to inspire swimmers? Like, what's your sort of recipe for inspiring your swimmers? I don't know if you have like a philosophy behind that.
Yeah, for sure. And not that it's such a developed philosophy and anything like that, but I think my personal approach to coaching and helping develop people is kind of like I said before, where viewing swimming as not just the sport. The sport is obviously valuable, and being in the thick of training and competing and improving within the sport is obviously valuable. I think anyone who does it or understands any sport can see that. But I think my biggest thing, and something I've developed from my experience with the sport too, is taking that step back and applying those life skills that you're learning in the pool to everything that you do. And I think regardless of the age I'm coaching, whether it's a younger swimmer just starting out or someone who's a little bit older, has been doing it for a while, I think we're trying to help develop and remind them of that light, that spark that you have for the sport, and use that to channel into different skills that you can develop as a human. Not just as a swimmer that has their head down and is swimming lap after lap, but what you're learning when you're in the pool and training day after day, year after year, that's something that sticks with you forever. And so I think that's my overall thought process that I want even younger kids to understand, where you try something and you work at something and you kind of hold yourself accountable to doing something and improving upon it, that's something that really sticks with you. So I think that's my biggest thought process, regardless of how big, strong, fast you are. That's something that anyone can and should learn, that you stick your mind to it and you work at something that you can improve. Things can change. And I think that's my biggest thing with swimming overall, of seeing that step back view of not just the swimming, but what you're developing as a person and applying that to everything else.
You say that to me a lot, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, because it's really easy, and of course I can only speak mostly to swimming, but I mean I did other sports when I was younger and everything, but I think in athletics as a whole, those skills that you learn, you don't even know the value until you're kind of on the other side. So the skills that I would like to see everyone developing from as a coaching perspective is that's something that is way more valuable than a time or whatever it is that is more of those measures within the sport, of being able to be proud of the skills that you are developing and the characteristics that you're developing as a person.
You're good. You're very good at, I think, promoting that. I guess we'll call it philosophy. Like, ever since, I mean, I think there was one practice in Gray where I think we sort of, I'm going to put hard in quotation marks, but we did like something, I think it was like a 200 free, and everybody was kind of freaking out. They were like, oh my god, 200 free, like 8 whole laps of freestyle. Yep. I still don't like freestyle that much, but like I lived, obviously. Yeah, but that practice, after we got out, and you had us all like panting, like some people were like, oh my god, that was so bad, but you were like, okay, now we're training. Like, it's just, I don't know, you sort of helped us transition from that, like, let's work on technique, to like, oh, we're training. And I think that's always sort of been prevalent in your coaching, is like, you're like, okay, the fun of this is not always going to be right at the surface there for you. And I think I've also seen that with all the medical stuff, but it's always there.
And that's where you have your own individual perspective with all the things that you deal with the medical world and all of that. And I think that just as a baseline, where learning that you can handle hard things and do hard things is a really important skill. And regardless, again, it doesn't matter if you're 6 years old and just learning how to swim, or you are in your first year as an 11, 12-year-old and first kind of doing something hard. Regardless of where you're at developmentally, that's all relative. But I think proving to yourself that you can take on a challenge and complete it and be okay on the other side and feel stronger and feel that pride, I think that's something that really is important, and that takes you wherever you're going in life, whatever you're applying that skill to, whether it's school, a job, a family, whatever it is, being able to have that thought in your head that you can do things. You can put your mind to something and accomplish it, whether it's hard, whether it feels easy at the beginning and then you hit a wall later, that you have the ability to kind of push through things.
I think for me, I was at a point when I started at CPAC where I think I was like, oh, I was literally one step, I know you've heard this, but I was one step away from just like dropping the sport. I was like, okay, one more year, and if it doesn't work, like, I'm done. But I think you actually showed me that I could do it, because I think you just having that support system where you're like, oh, it's okay, like, you have a lot of stuff going on, but you can still be a good swimmer and be a leader and stuff. So I think me looping back to you this year especially has been beneficial, especially for me mentally in this weird time. But I think throughout my medical career of, oh, let's just push the wall back for a bit, oh shoot, it's right in front of me again, but that's like what you've helped me with. Is
I'm glad to hear it, because that's something that obviously you have those skills, because you've been dealing with all of the stuff you've been dealing with this year and on top of everything. But it's just having that, I think having that mental view of, I can handle this. That doesn't mean everything's going to be easy. And I will be the first to say, things will not be easy, regardless of what you're doing. Something will be hard, whatever it is. But knowing that you can deal with it and kind of take it head on, I think that's how you develop yourself as a person and come out stronger on the other side.
You're just, this is my hero, people. This is like the pep talk I always need. I'm going swimming later too, so I needed this. But Question 3 for you. I'm gonna sort of play around. Oh shoot, I lost it again. I wanted to sort of ask you what advice, I've got 2 more for you since you sort of already covered one of the others, but what advice would you give to a current swim coach or an aspiring swim coach? I guess it could be for any sport, but I don't know. Whatever you want.
I would say overall, and I think really anyone in any kind of teaching position, and I am a swim coach, so I know that more specifically, but anyone who is in a position where they are working with kids or teenagers or people who are developing in any way, really adults, I think it's really important to connect with them. And that doesn't mean that you connect with the same person in the same way, but be able and willing to get to know what each person needs. And I think that's something that I think is really important. And going through my career as a swimmer and as a student and as a human throughout my life, where the best connections I felt with people of authority or teachers or coaches, whatever it was when people took the time to know me and to get to understand what I needed when I was in that role and kind of figure out what our relationship was going to be and motivate me or inspire me or connect with me in that way. I think the more you're able to do that, the better results you'll get and the better developmental skills, as we talked about, that you'll kind of get out of that, where having a blanket approach to everyone you meet, really in any capacity, I think can be a little damaging, where everyone needs something different. Everyone needs a different voice or a different approach to how they're learning something or dealing with something and developing. So I think having the ability to have that interpersonal connection with different people of different backgrounds, of different developmental places, I think that's the most important thing I would say I've learned and kind of seen from being on the other end of it, on the receiving end. And I think that's how you get the best results overall from that relationship.
You just know everyone, like whether or not you coach them, like you just seem to know everybody. I'm like, how does she even do that? Like I wouldn't be able to, but like everyone in our group, everyone in orange and white, you just know everyone.
I think it's important, where I've been a kid too and felt the opposite, where you don't feel seen, you don't feel connected, and that's not a good feeling to have. And I think everyone has felt that in some way, whether with whoever it was. But I think feeling seen and feeling like you are a person who is understood is really, really valuable. And that's how you get the most out of whatever the task is you're doing. Feeling like you're not seen and not a person in your authority figure teacher's eyes is a tougher spot to be in. So you have that mound to climb over before you even get to the work of it. So I think having trust and being able to have that open communication is really important.
Now I know where that comes from, though, because I think you understand me now that you really do, and I trust you. And I think there are always some people I'm brutally honest with about like everything going on, and I think you are one of them, where I know that like you're not afraid of that and you know how to deal with that. So like when mine knows it starts getting bad again, you kind of automatically know. Like we've been through like 6 surgeries together, I think. Maybe a little less, but we've been through a lot of surgeries together, and so I think you just always know how to deal with that, and you know what I need. You know me very, very well, probably better than most people.
I'm glad. And that's why it's knowing and understanding. That doesn't mean, again, that doesn't make your surgery easier. It's not like, okay, now it's just going to be easy sailing, but it just makes the feeling of it, the emotional part of it, a little bit easier to handle. Whether it's a swim set, I think what it is really irrelevant, but having that feeling of trust and, okay, I can handle this because I have the backup of my coach, my teacher, my teammates, whatever it is, whoever's supporting you. But knowing that you have that, I think, is really big on the emotional level, the mental level.
Definitely. Let's see. I think one more big one. I wanted to know, what are some of the things that have inspired you throughout your life and your career as a swimmer and as a coach? Like what are some of your inspirations?
I think if I had to boil it down to one thing, and really with swimming and just life again, and I think I always take it to that other level of, I think it's all connected. I think I've always been inspired by really kind of finding continual improvement in a way where whether it's in school or in swimming, in a sport, again, whatever it is, in coaching, of finding new ways to learn and be curious and kind of internally develop myself. I think that's something that I've always found kind of motivation in, even when I was younger, in the sense of it's not the same thing, obviously, when you're an 8, 9-year-old, but kind of having that curiosity and knowing that I don't know everything and wanting to learn and improve, and whether it's learning in school or finding a way to be tougher and work harder in a swim practice or a soccer practice, whatever it is, of always kind of having that next level of thought. And I think that's kind of a baseline inspiration I've had, in the sense of it's something that always kind of sticks with me, where whether I'm reading a book and want to learn something new and okay, now I'm going to read this other book to learn more. I think it's something that really sticks with me when in everything I've kind of done, where here's where I am now. What else is there to learn? What else is there to do and develop? I think that's one of the bigger things.
That is very, very deep. You always come up with like all these deep things.
Philosophical, I guess.
No, yeah. You just come up with all these deep things.
I think it's just one of those things where if I'm thinking of my journey as a person, regardless of swimming, and again, I feel like I've said that a lot, but overall, it's just one of those things that kind of sticks with you, where if you're always learning and looking to do something new, you're never bored. You always have something else to think about, to work at, and I think that's been that kind of inspiration for me of there's always something new to learn, always something new to do, and I think that's been around for a while.
Most people are like, oh, my inspiration is my mother, and then you're like, oh,
my mom too. that's where it's, I mean, obviously, of course, like there's the inspiration can come in many different ways, I think. And I mean, I'm inspired by the people I coach. I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired, like,
thank you.
That whole circle of whatever you're doing, I think you can find inspiration in. But I think that overall that there's external inspirations and there's those internal ones of what drives each individual as a person is going to be different. And that's something that I just always kind of stuck with, I guess.
People are always like, oh, it's like my, I don't know, my favorite movie character or whatever, like my dog or my parents. And I'm like, oh, people are like, what inspires you? I'm like, just Camryne, like pretty much.
Find inspiration in anything. And I think that's great. And whatever it is, whatever inspires anyone is, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be a movie character, go for it. Whatever it is that gives you that little view of whatever you need. Everyone needs something different, and what motivates them to keep going and do something different and try and develop, and whatever it is, I think is valuable. It's just finding what kind of works best for you.
I feel like there are certain things that have just like absolutely changed the way I look at literally everything, and I think you're one of those cases for me. Like when you got to know me and you helped me, I mean, you built me from the ground up. Like, I could get down the pool, but there were some previous meets where my mom was like, oh my god, I thought you were gonna like drown. And at that point I hated backstroke more than I do now. Just so everyone watching is aware, my favorite words are backstroke, kicking, and core.
Oh yeah.
You're always like, oh, use your core. I'm like, great, here we go again.
Here we go.
But you really built me. I mean, I hated butterfly going into gray. And look at me now. Like, that's my favorite stroke.
And that's something where, yes, I was there with the whole journey, and that's something where I think that you've developed yourself. Like, that's you. That's you working and doing that. And looking back, it's fun to take that step back, where now you have enough. If you took that step back the third day of your swimming year, it wouldn't feel the same. But now that you've had the experience, like, you can take that step back and view that was you. You were the one swimming the laps. You were the one making those changes. And I think that's really important for you to be able to look at it too and say, I did that. I made those changes. And that's,
yeah, I did.
Little check marks are fun to be able to stop and think, wow, that's how it used to feel, whatever it is, butterfly, backstroke, anything. But now here you are. And that's great. That's, I think, really important and valuable as a swimmer, as an athlete, to be able to have those little moments of clarity where, wow, things are different now. It's easy to get stuck in the everything feels hard and is horrible, but being able to take that step back and say, look at the changes that I've made. I think that's really valuable.
Oh man, I always got stuck in that, and you're always trying to pull me out and like, surgery sucks. I don't want to swim, sucks. Like everything is terrible.
And I think one thing I've learned from coaching too, and swimming life, I guess, is it's okay to get stuck in the sense of things will be hard. Just having a positive attitude, I don't think is always enough, where it's like, oh, it's just surgery, it'll be fine.
No problem, yeah.
Surgery is hard. Surgery is a hard thing to deal with, and I think it should be whatever it is, surgery, a swim meet, whatever, anything, a hard test. Those things are hard to deal with, and I think acknowledging that yes, it's tough, but knowing that you can do it and you can handle it, you've been through your surgery, you know you can do it and be okay on the other end. And I think it's acknowledging that sometimes things will be really hard. Things will be hard. It's, I think, helpful in the way of, it's not discounting it and saying this should be easy. Why does this feel hard? Hard things will come. It's just knowing that you have the ability to get through them, I think, is a little bit more. Hard stuff will still come. You get through one hard thing, the next thing's normally pretty close behind. So I think it's okay. Hard things are still going to be around, but it's more of your approach to them, I think, as opposed to ignoring and detouring around the hard thing. Go right.
I can't really get around this. I think when I can't breathe, I can't get around it.
Just skip around.
Yeah, I mean, this time around, I think I was saying to my dad yesterday, I'm like, Dad, I literally, like, my nose is just getting progressively worse, and my parents are like, let's not do a surgery in COVID. I'm like, I really need to see a doctor. But
its own challenges this year, my goodness.
Yes, I think I just am a lot less tolerant of it. I mean, I haven't had a surgery in a year, so, like, now I'm back to where I started. I'm like, ew, I don't want to do it. Like, I'm just so much less tolerant.
Feeling the buildup. You've had the time away, and now it's okay.
Now it's, like, back again. Speaking of COVID, I actually wanted to sort of ask you, how have you found coaching in COVID?
Oh, I mean, it's a strange difference. I mean, I think as everyone in the world is dealing with in some capacity, regardless of what you're doing or where you're at, I think everyone has been making adjustments in a way where it's different, but I'm thankful in the way of we have been able to, obviously not right now, but we've been able to do it and do it safely and do it in a way that people are still able to swim and swimmers have been able to have fun and keep doing the sport that they love. And so I'm thankful in the way that we've been able to make it work, but it's required creativity and facing some unique challenges, which, again, just another one of those roadblocks where, okay, we can either crumble or deal with it. Those are the options. So it's been definitely different, but I mean, nothing that is a challenge that can't be handled, I think, overall.
Oh man, I think this shutdown, I can't decide if it was better or worse than the first one.
It's a strange time.
I literally, we had a lesson, like, the day everything kind of started falling apart, and it was like a ghost town at the pool. Yeah. Nobody knew what to do.
I think that this year is shown everyone you can deal with the unknown. It's not, it doesn't feel good. You don't feel at ease, but you can face it and deal with it, and I would say take one day at a time, but I think even taking a day at a time is a little bit too long. Sometimes
an hour
at a time of what's happened in this minute, and you go from there. So I think that's, if anything, we're all developing those skills, so that's a plus.
Yeah, I'd had a bad day that day too, I think, just knowing everything was shutting down, and you were like, how was your day? I was like, Camryne, it was really bad, and you sat there and you were like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, are we gonna shut down? You're like, well, it doesn't look good. I was like, oh no, it doesn't look good. Camryne said it doesn't look good, does not compute. I literally, like, you're always so calm. I'm like, oh no, she just said it doesn't look good. This is not good.
There's no avoiding certain things, and I think we all are in it.
Oh man, I saw this thing yesterday where it was like, app of the year, Zoom. I was like, wow, go Zoom.
I have been learning a lot of Zoom really in the last couple weeks, where I did a little bit of it, but I've been learning. There's a lot to learn.
We've had like our little light shows and our group Zooms.
Yeah. That's great. I love it.
I don't know. I was like, wow, app of the year. That's the least shocking thing that's actually happened this entire year.
I mean, it's crazy it's great that there's technology allows you to continue on life in a different way. But same as we've said in some of the swim team Zooms, where you're able to connect in a different way we weren't able to in person. So that's a great way in the sense of we're able to talk more openly and not be close to each other, obviously, but communicate in a way that weren't able to when we're in person. So there's those different pros to it, I guess, that we haven't been able to do in person. So that's really cool that the technology allows us to continue on and find new ways to do something.
Oh God, I think literally every time now I hear the word COVID, it's like COVID. I'm like, oh great. Like last year, if you had told me at this time, which this was around the time Carrie Underwood showed up at Chelsea Piers. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I do remember. It is very strange to think about this time last year where we're just living. And it changed pretty fast.
Carrie Underwood like showed up and everyone was like, can we go see Carrie Underwood? You were like, no, because I think it was a Tuesday and you were helping us and you were like, no.
It was because I think she had written a book.
And I think so.
Tour, and I remember I had seen something that tickets had sold out in like 10 seconds and nobody could come. So it's like, you can't just walk in and see Carrie. It's not exactly, it's not like a walk-up event. I think there were prior commitment involved.
It was so funny though, because everyone was like, oh my God, Carrie Underwood's at Chelsea Piers, like Carrie Underwood. And I was kind of just like, oh God, that was funny. That was really funny. I don't know. I just think like now, if you told me like a year ago that I would be doing this with you right now, I think I would have laughed. And if I hadn't seen your full face since March, so that was depressing.
That's weird to think about, really. And something I've realized is I coached some younger swimmers on the team who this was their first year on the team, and they had never seen my face before.
Oh God.
Which is strange to think about, where, I mean, my eyes and above, but being able, that's where I'm thankful for Zoom too, where we can actually see each other's faces and get to know each other in a different way that we weren't able to do in person this year so far. So it's good. It's different, but it's something.
Oh boy. Yep. Pace it like a swim practice.
Absolutely.
If anyone read my blog, this is the inspiration behind it as well. I'm just trying to sort of remember that. Does it work all the time? No, but for the most part, it's been working.
One step at a time. Sometimes less than a step, like one motion of the step at a time. You
lift your foot, put it down.
Yeah.
All the things like that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your pep talk. I needed this is for the viewers, but I actually also really needed this. I'm doing a free set today. And because I haven't swum in a bit, because we were going somewhere for Christmas and then we weren't going there again. So like I'm kind of confused, but I'm like, okay, let's just do some freestyle. I'm gonna do some kicking.
Do some freestyle.
I'm kind of neutral about freestyle. It's better than backstroke.
There you go. That's something.
But thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing this. This has been a nice serotonin boost for me going into the rest of the day and the year that can literally not be over soon enough.
Who knows? We're almost there.
Oh boy, one final push. I'm like, just get through school. It's been harder without swimming to like help make the days.
It's a whole lot on all of you students in school, where I can't imagine being in school, being in high school, and dealing with the ever-changing environment of what's going on. So props to all of you guys, honestly, being able to deal with not just swimming or whatever it is you do, but every day in school. It's a lot. It's a lot this year.
Props to you. I mean, you guys just stand on the deck like yelling in a mask, and you're not like Jimmy, who has like the biggest, loudest voice. You're like, Rowie, go! And nobody actually goes.
Just go ahead.
And I'm always like, when are we going? You're like, the top, because I literally can't. I can't.
I have to save a little bit. Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to add as a final word to the viewers?
Oh, overall, I'm just happy to be a part of this. I'm proud of you for taking on this challenge.
Thank you.
Really cool. I think that it speaks a lot to who you are as a person to have free time in, okay, my swimming isn't happening, my school's different, everything's different, and to view that as an opportunity and a way to do something new and finding that inspiration in, okay, I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to find a way to do this new podcast and get the video and get everything together. I think that's really awesome. I think that speaks a lot to who you are as a person. Keep learning, keep doing awesome stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for being proud of me. That means a lot. Thank you for inspiring me too. As I've said, this is my hero, and so I'm glad I get to have this with you. I think when I get older, I'm gonna have this as well. I think no matter what happens, I'm always you'll always be a very big part of my life and at the top of my gratitude list. So thank you for doing this.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, people. So quick update on the audio. There was a bit of a malfunction, and I can't seem to get the audio from Susan's episode to work. So we'll see if I can get this one to work, but that's kind of a problem. So worst comes to worst, if you hear me say to check out the audio versions in previous episodes, it's probably false. So just forget about that. Just watch the video. That's my update. So this is Camryne, everybody. Give her a big virtual round of applause. Thank you for doing this. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.